The Prime Minister has kick-started his two-day state visit to Russia. He was received at the Moscow airport by Russia's first Deputy Prime Minister, Denis Manturov, who also accompanied the Indian Prime Minister to the hotel in the same car. Now, this is being seen as a strong signal about the importance that Russia places on its ties with India. The Prime Minister is scheduled to hold summit-level talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, during which the two leaders will review all aspects of bilateral ties. Trade, energy, defense will be high on agenda when the two leaders meet. Ahead of the talks, Putin would host Prime Minister Modi for a private dinner, a rare honor reserved by the Russian president for only a handful of visiting leaders. But as the world sets its eyes on the Modi-Putin Bonhomie, politics over this visit is brewing back home in India, with opposition leaders saying that Prime Minister Modi can go abroad, but he doesn't have time for Manipur, which has been witnessing violent ethnic conflict for over a year. Opposition's attack comes as Rahul visited Manipur for the first time after becoming leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha.
नॉन बायोलॉजिकल प्रधानमंत्री मॉस्को जा रहे हैं। राहुल जी नेता प्रतिपक्ष लोकसभा में हैं, वो मणिपुर गए हैं। पिछले 17 महीने में प्रधानमंत्री ने मणिपुर के बारे में कुछ कहा ही नहीं, और मणिपुर तो गए ही नहीं, कुछ 4-5 घंटे के लिए भी नहीं गए हैं।
Rahul Gandhi's attempt in Manipur is to bring about peace, to send a message of solidarity. But Mr. Modi doesn't just care. He just doesn't care about Manipur. He hasn't been there for over a year. He goes to every part of the globe, from Moscow to Britain to Greece to US. But the only place he doesn't find time or perhaps intends to go is Manipur.
Our leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi ji, is visiting Manipur today. In the meantime, Prime Minister Modi has never visited Manipur. BJP is ruling Manipur, but they are not ready to heal the wounds of the people. Rahul Gandhi ji is a leader who stands with the people who are in pain.
The BJP has countered Congress on citing of the data, particularly as far as the number of deaths in the northeastern state under Congress's rule from 1990. BJP says that between 1990 and 2012, when the Congress party was in power in the state, many, including civilians and security personnel, lost their lives in ethnic clashes. BJP also accused Congress of selective outrage, asking why did Rahul not visit Tamil Nadu and Bengal, which have also witnessed incidents of violence.
अब राहुल गांधी विपक्ष के नेता हैं, उनसे कुछ जिम्मेवारी की अपेक्षा की जाती है, ये मैं जरूर कहूंगा। वहां पर अमित शाह जी कितने दिन रहे, वहां राज्य गृह मंत्री नित्यानंद राय कितने दिन रहे, हमेशा पूरे मणिपुर पर मलहम लगाने की कोशिश की जा रही है। जब भी चीजें ठीक होने की कोशिश होती है, क्या राहुल गांधी तनाव बढ़ाने का काम करते हैं? ये ठीक है क्या?
देखिए, प्रधानमंत्री जी का मॉस्को विजिट का मकसद कंस्ट्रक्टिव है। पप्पू जी के मणिपुर विजिट की मंशा डिस्ट्रक्टिव है। तो एक तरफ कंस्ट्रक्टिव जो विजिट की मकसद हो, देश की सुरक्षा, देश की सार्वभौमिकता को सशक्त करना, उसको मजबूत करना, और दूसरी तरफ जो है वो मणिपुर आपकी विजिट के मकसद मंशा आपकी जो है वो वहां की सुरक्षा पर पलीता लगाने की कोशिश करना, उस पर पॉलिटिक्स करना, इससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं है।
Meanwhile, a leader of the India bloc, Uddhav Sena MP, Sanjay Raut, revealed an interesting reason behind Rahul Gandhi's Manipur visit. He says that Rahul is visiting Manipur because he wants to become the PM and the India bloc wants him to become the Prime Minister. Listen in to what Raut and other India bloc leaders had to say.
राहुल जी ही जाएंगे, प्रधानमंत्री की तो लोग इंतजार करके बैठे हैं वहां, तो जाना है राहुल जी को ही आखिर, क्योंकि राहुल जी को प्रधानमंत्री बनना है, हम बनाएंगे।
Prime Minister's Moscow visit will find a set of jokes. BJP should appreciate the humor of the nation. As पापा ने वॉर रुकवा दी, लेकिन पापा एग्जाम नहीं लेकर रुकवा पा रहे, पापा मणिपुर में शांति नहीं बहाल कर पा रहे. We will not follow the cowardly model that BJP has followed under Prime Minister Modi.
उसी नॉर्थ ईस्ट के अंदर जहां पे दशकों तक डिस्टर्बेंसेस चली, अलगाववाद चला, इंसर्जेंसी चली, उस नॉर्थ ईस्ट के अंदर एक पूरा राज्य लगभग सिविल वॉर की तरह जो है 1 साल से जल रहा है, और देश का प्रधानमंत्री वहां पे जाना ही नहीं चाहते हैं। ये तो बहुत शर्म की बात है।
मणिपुर के लोग, आप हटा दीजिए कांग्रेस, बीजेपी, फलाना ढिमकाना, मणिपुर के लोग अपने पीएम को अपने बीच देखना चाहते हैं। 1.25 साल से दहक रहा है, तो प्रधानमंत्री जी इस बात का उनको एहसास करना होगा, किसी ने वोट दिया या ना दिया, देश के तो प्रधानमंत्री आप ही हैं।
And government India sources have told Times Now that India's stand during the PM visit to Moscow on the Russia-Ukraine conflict would be that the solution cannot be found on the battlefield, pretty much echoing what the Prime Minister had said earlier as well. Let me quickly get in Rishabh, who's getting us this breaking piece of information. Rishabh, it is going to be pretty much a repeat of the Prime Minister's earlier statement that now is not a time for war. This time round, a similar message that a solution for the Russia-Ukraine war, the conflict, cannot be found on the battlefield. We have Abhishek also joining us from Moscow at the moment. Rishabh, over to you first.
Well, definitely, India's stand is very clear. The sources, senior sources in government of India has very clearly told Times Now that India's stand is very clear, and we will convey the message that solutions cannot be found on battleground, which means that diplomacy and dialogue is the only solution. Remember, similar lines were told by Prime Minister Narendra Modi back in September 2022 when he met Russian President Putin on the sidelines of SCO in Uzbekistan, and he said that this is not an era of war. And now, echoing the same sentiment, India and Indian Prime Minister has gone to Moscow very clearly saying that conflict is not the solution, dialogue and diplomacy is.
All right, let's in fact quickly take this across to Abhishek as well. Abhishek, I believe that dinner meeting, a rare honor being given to Prime Minister Modi, reserved for a few world leaders. I believe that meeting has begun. How long is this dinner expected to last for, Abhishek?
Actually, I would say that this dinner with President Vladimir Putin will last, I think, at least for 1.5 or 2 hours, because I have seen the barricadings at Red Square. So I think after that, PM Modi is going to have his visit to Red Square also, because there was a barricading and quite security arrangements were there. So I think over the table, President Vladimir Putin is going to discuss some of the things which are going to be the chief agenda of tomorrow's meeting. And I think that is the point of discussion.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us there, Abhishek Vikram Singh, as well as Rishabh Pratap. We'll have to leave it there for the moment. We'll keep coming back to you tomorrow for all the updates as well.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest now. Joining us, Shazi Alvi, national spokesperson of BJP, is with us. We have with us Sushant Sareen, senior fellow of the ORF. Rajat Sethi, author and economist, is joining us. We have Lokesh Jindal, political analyst, with us. Faizan Kidwai, spokesperson of Samajwadi Party. Also with us at the moment is Chandrasekhar Jha, leader of Shiv Sena UBT. And let me start with you first. Chandrasekhar Jha, leader of your party, Mr. Sanjay Raut says that Rahul Gandhi wants to be Prime Minister. That's why he's gone to Manipur. Now, I don't know if it's a coincidence that the Prime Minister is visiting Moscow on the day that Rahul Gandhi is going to Manipur. But really, by contrasting the two and also saying that Rahul Gandhi is going there because he wants to become Prime Minister, aren't we adding some kind of political motive to Rahul Gandhi's visit? You may have been trying to contrast the Prime Minister's absence there, but haven't you ended up also talking about what the real idea of the Congress party is behind Rahul Gandhi's visit to Manipur? Chandrasekhar Jha.
See, it's not a political visit. If you see, for last 1 year, the Manipur is burning. And the BJP or any of its minister did not talk about Manipur. They want to divert the issue for last 1.5 years. They are doing nothing in Manipur. Northeast is burning. So many deaths have occurred. But nothing has been spoken by Mr. Narendra Modi. And what has happened today, that army has to be pushed into the state, but still even the army could not control the such mass violence which is happening. So it cannot be said that it's a political statement. Yes, the government which is now in the center, it's very clear that they are not having a majority because they are standing on two legs. One is Nitish Kumarji and other is Chandrababu Naidu. So you cannot say the government will run for long. So in any manner, if you see today the statement which has come, it has got relevancy, and this relevancy is very particular to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. And
it's not a political statement. Sanjay Raut may have said that Rahul Gandhi going to Manipur is so that he becomes Prime Minister, but it's not a political statement. Shazi Alvi, your government is perhaps not stable enough as you would like it to be, and that's perhaps why all of this is happening. Please respond to the Shiv Sena spokesperson.
First of all, I'd like to say let's not draw any false equivalence. One is not being done at the cost of another, and it may be mutually exclusive of each other. While Manipur remains a raging issue, a burning issue, just like West Bengal and the violence in West Bengal is, or in Tamil Nadu, or crime against women is in Telangana, Manipur also, and very seriously, remains a crucial issue, on which the Prime Minister has spoken not once but several times, and at the same time when he was addressing in great detail as to what all has happened and has all the actions that have been taken to contain the crisis and the ethnic strife, we've seen how the opposition, how the Congress party has behaved. So if they really were serious about listening in and looking at positive outcomes, considering the fact that the experience Congress has had in ruling Manipur since 72 has been huge. So instead of giving anything positive to offer, now Moscow is being dragged in. Here we are on the eve of a very crucial, important summit, and very important subjects are being discussed there. And I don't know why we should be bringing in this petty politics all the time. I mean, nothing takes away from the seriousness of Manipur, just like nothing takes away from the seriousness of Sandesh Khali. Or of Tamil Nadu. And I can quickly ask at this point of time, why is he going to Manipur? Why is he not going to West Bengal? Why is he not going to Tamil Nadu? I can do that, but there's so much more to do than just bring each other down in this terrible manner. So I think it's just not petty, it's unbecoming. And I think Congress is turning out to be a real sore loser, having tasted defeat 3 times over, and I think they have to make peace with it.
Okay, let me bring in Lokesh on that note. Lokesh, at the end of the day, if you're going to start questioning the track record of Manipur, then perhaps it's fair for the BJP to say that where was Rahul Gandhi when there was Sandesh Khali? Where is Rahul Gandhi when there is a Kallakurichi? Or recently a killing of Mr. Armstrong, the BSP state chief in Tamil Nadu? Where is Mr. Rahul Gandhi? Because if you start this kind of a slanging match, then perhaps there's no end to it, Lokesh.
But Madhav, you cannot compare Manipur to that of Sandesh Khali or Tamil Nadu for the simple reason it was on 31st of March 2022 that the BJP government had revoked AFSPA in districts of Assam, Manipur, Nagaland. And subsequently, the state administration failed to establish a prudent law and order and the public order framework within which the states could be handled. And that was one of the major reasons for what happened in Manipur. In 2023 itself, there began violence, and now AFSPA is being reintroduced. So I would say it's the complete failure, policy failure of the central government with respect to revocation of AFSPA and the consequences henceforth. Secondly, when you're talking about the Prime Minister's visit to Russia, I won't comment on that. It's an important visit. It comes on the line when the 75 years of NATO has been completed and India upholds Russia-India partnership, and that is something which is needed on the foreign policy front. However, that should not come at the cost of burning domestic issues. Right now, what is happening in Manipur has a tendency to spread in the entire northeastern region. Therefore, there is a need to deal with this situation more responsibly.
Sushant Sareen, would you like to respond to that? This is a violence that threatens to spiral out of control. The Prime Minister said something quite different in Parliament from what I recollect, but would you like to respond to what is being stated here by Lokesh? Because he says it's a hasty decision to remove AFSPA that led to this situation.
No, I'm rather encouraged by the fact that spokesperson of the Congress party is backing for AFSPA. Because a lot of
I think there's an echo there. We'll try and rectify that. Yeah, is that resolved? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Sushant.
I'm very relieved that I'm very encouraged by the fact that a spokesperson of the Congress party is batting for AFSPA, because many of the people from that ecosystem have been raging and ranting against AFSPA. They want to remove it in various parts of India. So if Mr. Jindal is batting for it, I think that's very good. Number one. Number two, I don't know where he has come up with this presumption from that if Mr. Modi has gone to Moscow to push India's foreign policy ahead, it means that it is at the cost of money. The two are completely different things. Manipur is a very complex situation. It's far more complex than the kind of political football it's being made out to be. Has the Prime Minister spoken about it? He has. Should he have gone out there? I think that's his discretion.
I think there's a problem with that echo. I'm sorry, Sushant, for interrupting you. We can't hear you very clearly. That echo seems to have returned, and I apologize. Let me quickly try and resolve that. But let me bring in Rajat on this point, because Rajat is somebody who has closely seen matters in Manipur. Rajat, is there any merit in Lokesh's claim that removal of AFSPA was perhaps the reason for what happened on ground?
No, that is not true. But larger point, what Lokesh is saying, I agree with. There is a reasoning and some merit to that reasoning that it might actually spiral out of control. There is already Chinese angle out there, and Myanmar is right now under junta rule, and they have their own influence in the state of Manipur. And China would want to use the turbulence both in Myanmar and in Manipur to their advantage. So yes, it needs to be addressed. And I believe that first we need to address the elephant in the room, that BJP's communication around Manipur has been horrible. It's not like BJP and the central government, the Home Ministry and the Prime Minister's office are not actively handling this issue, just that they have not been able to communicate to the nation the kind of steps or course corrective steps that they have been taking behind the curtains and convince the larger population. And this is the reason why even the people in Manipur have fallen into the narrative, and BJP lost both the seats in Manipur. Now, given this, and I'm acknowledging this before any kind of a whataboutery, but let me tell you, in 2017, I'm just trying to explain to you the nature of how deeply entrenched issues in Manipur are. 150 days of economic blockade was enforced in the state of Manipur. No goods, no medicine, no petrol, no gas could reach into the state, and the chief minister of Manipur was at the helm of the affairs. And the Congress chief minister, could not even travel to the neighboring districts. That was the state of affairs. Prior to that, there have been 5 rounds of genocide, and one of the genocides lasted for 5 long years. That's how entrenched these problems are. These are not like you call the two communities, have a casual discussion, and reinforce trust on both the sides, and it magically resolves. It is much, much more complex. And this is where I think the bureaucrats for a fairly long time have been trying to shield the talks that are going between Kukis and Meiteis from political interference. Because if political interference starts, it becomes an intractable problem. You just cannot solve it. And China will further try and play.
Okay.
That's the problem. Even Prime Minister's office, it is the topmost office of arbitration which can step in, but only if certain necessary steps, preliminary steps are taken in that direction. Because, if the talks fail at the Prime Minister's level, what will happen then? There is no bigger office thereafter. Therefore, PM and the entire administration is being very careful how to structure these talks. Okay. And these are much more technical, less political in nature. And Rahul Gandhi, he had its way. There was a whole all-party committee of parliamentarians who went and visited Manipur. They came back empty-handed, without any suggestions. This is how complex the problem is. And I hope he will come with a humble understanding of the state. Congress couldn't address it. BJP tried doing it for 5-6 years. There was relative peace, but now situation is quite bad, and there should be no politicking on it. All right, Lokesh,
end of the day, these are complex situations. You've had long drawn-out conflicts, even when Congress governments were in power. So it's unfair for you to expect that things will be resolved in a jiffy when it comes to Manipur, given what we've seen in the past. Respond to that pointed question from Rajat.
Madhav, the Meitei and the Kuki issue is not something new. There were already tensions between the two communities, and there was a gross mishandling, especially by Biren Singh's government, with respect to according a tribal status and according them property rights as well. And we also know that all this was done by the government despite there had been no presence of AFSPA and no mechanism that would control any form of violence that could ensue. So the entire nation knows that there were two major reasons. One was absence of any security framework, and second, trying to play upon an issue which had been a historical bone of contention and quite inflammable between the two communities. So I would, at this point, I would hold BJP government responsible for whatever is happening in Manipur.
Okay. I see many heads shaking over there.
As
Sushant.
Untrue as it gets.
Can I just come in?
wanted to say, it's as untrue and far from reality as it can get.
Okay, substantiate that, Rajat. Quick, come in.
See, it was a high court which brought in the ST issue, which was pending for 10 years. That was the trigger point for the entire thing. There is no AFSPA or that question doesn't arise. There are more than 60,000 troops in the state of Manipur, far more than Jammu and Kashmir also. How many more troops do you want?
Okay.
AFSPA is the day of the past. This solution cannot bring peace today.
Yeah.
So Congress should come out of that frame of every time looking to AFSPA. They have seen Irom Sharmila fasting for 16 years. Hunger till death. That was her fast. Did Rahul Gandhi ever go and console Irom Sharmila? For 16 years, she was weeping all alone in the state of Manipur.
Absolutely.
These are like very, very complex issues.
I want to debate the other aspect of this, which is the Prime Minister in Moscow. And I think we haven't paid enough attention to that. And I want to bring in fact, the Samajwadi Party spokesperson, Faizan Kidwai, on this. Faizan, there are important visits and there are important visits. In this case, we know there's a war that has happened between Russia and Ukraine. It has been 2 years since the annual bilateral summit has taken place. This would be taking place after a gap of about 3 years. We know how important this particular tour of the Prime Minister is, this visit of him officially is. But yet the kind of politics that's breaking out, where domestic issues, which as Sushant was saying, are totally unconnected with India's ties to Russia, which have our defense relations, our energy security, and several other aspects, including our space program at stake. Do we really need to go through this kind of politics? Is a question that is being asked on the side of the BJP. Faizan.
Madhav, first, I'd like to pay my condolences to the families of the brave hearts who lost their lives. I was just watching it on your show. So, my condolences to them. May the souls of our brave hearts rest in peace, and may Allah give strength to the families to bear this loss. Okay. So, Madhav, as far as, would you please repeat the question?
Question is, the Prime Minister's visit is happening after a 2-year break. This is an annual bilateral conference that has happened unbroken for a long time. And it has repercussions on our energy security, on our defense, because Russia is still our biggest supplier of military hardware, on our space program. All right, these are the live pictures coming in from, in fact, the dinner. The Prime Minister being greeted by Vladimir Putin. The dinner has already taken place, but these are pictures coming in from just before the start of that dinner, a private dinner that the Prime Minister will be having with President Putin, and we can see those pictures coming in there live. All right, these are the pictures from Moscow where the Prime Minister is being greeted. He, of course, described Vladimir Putin as his friend in his departure statement that came in earlier. Of course, a lot of business also that is expected to be interacted, and a very, very significant visit indeed. While we stay with these pictures, let me quickly take that question across to Faizan. Faizan, significant visit, important items on the agenda. Is there really a need to drag in domestic politics? No doubt that Manipur is a big issue. We've been debating that as well. But should we really be connecting Moscow visit with Manipur?
Madhav, it is very important to connect everything that the Prime Minister is doing. He has to be answerable. It is not only the people of India or the opposition. It is also the international community which had questioned Narendra Modi. If you see, the European Parliament had adopted a resolution asking Narendra Modi and his government to speed up the process of containing the violence that is happening in Manipur. So Narendra Modi, like under Narendra Modi, this has brought disgrace to the nation that a foreign entity is asking our own Prime Minister, our own government, that you are not doing enough for your own people. So Narendra Modi has to be questioned. He's going around everywhere. Can't he spare a day just to go to Manipur? It is very important. He's the Prime Minister of India. As far as the Russia visit is concerned, Madhav, this could have serious ramifications on the relationship of India with the Western world and with the people who are anti-Russia. If you see the kind of trade we are doing with Russia, it is Russia which is benefiting most, not us. India imports with Russia have been 60 billion in a year, whereas Russia is buying only 5 billion from us. In 22-23, the trade was 49.63 billion. India exports 3.14 billion and imports 46.21 billion.
Okay.
So it is actually Russia which is benefiting, and we are putting a lot at stake by having this closeness to Russia. There can be serious problems.
So what are you advocating?
There could be sanctions.
So what are you advocating?
I'm just saying, Madhav, that right now what was more important for Narendra Modi was to visit Manipur. You have to make sure that the country...
Well, I'm glad you've not said we should snap ties with Russia, but let me bring in Sushant Sareen on that note. Sushant Sareen, rather interesting food for thought. But yes, this is something that even the Congress has maintained, that there's a huge trade imbalance, that, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh met Medvedev 17 times in 10 years. The Modi-Putin visits have only been 10 times. Is there a cooling off of relations? Indians are fighting in the Russian army, so there are no jobs here in India. Several such questions coming in from the Congress.
Yes, Madhav, the Indians were fighting, or at least were part of the support staff for the American armies in various war theaters. What happened to that? That also was taking place, right? Was it because there were no jobs during the Congress time? Now, during the Congress time between 2004 and 2014, you did not have COVID, so you did not have 3 years where you could not meet. Number one. Number two, at that point of time, the 2014 Crimea invasion had not taken place. So Russia was still not ostracized. It was still very much a part of the international system, or at least the Western dictated system, which our young leader Faizan seems to be so enamored of. So as a result, they had many more meetings because India was also invited, Mr. Putin was also there. But let's come down to the trade aspects of it. It's really a dumbing down of the kind of deficits that people are talking about. Why has the trade gone up from around $8-10 billion? Much of it was also still loaded in Russia's favor because it was mostly weapons imports that India was doing from Russia and some other stuff. There was very little oil coming from Russia. We have now ramped up our oil purchases from Russia. But what are we doing with that oil? Number one, that oil is being reprocessed and exported. So I would strongly counsel to Faizan that he should also check the trade data of India of what are the oil exports from India. Because a lot of the oil which is now going into European markets is Russian oil processed in India and being sold in European markets, which is India's export. So if you start taking it in balance, the trade deficit is not as much as what it's made out to be in overall terms. Number one. Number two, please also remember that earlier we were buying a lot of our oil from some of the Arab countries and other countries in the Middle East. Because we are getting a better deal from the Russians, we have switched our supplies to Russian oil. I don't see why we should not do it. And number three, as far as the sanctions business is concerned, look, are we going to say that, okay, fine, because now the Americans or the West is now going to start imposing sanctions, we cannot deal with anybody else. Is that the way we are going to run our foreign policy? I don't think so. I think we have taken a middle path. Russia is a valued partner, ally. We are keeping our relationship with the Russians going, and so is the West. It's a valued ally. But the West has this habit of hectoring, of sermonizing, of pontificating, which as an Indian from an independent country, I find very galling. Because otherwise, I would strongly counsel to Faizan, because his party has a number of MPs in parliament now, they should pass resolutions in the Indian parliament on how, for example, Muslims are treated in China. They should pass resolutions in the Indian parliament of racism in the US, police brutality in the US, of all kinds of problems in Europe. Why don't they do it? And just because some other parliament does it, are you going to start feeling shy and feel embarrassed because some white person has decided that he's going to sermonize to you? I mean, come on, guys, grow up. I have absolutely no problem with Faizan raising questions as an Indian citizen from his Prime Minister. Right or wrong, that's his right. He must do it, even if those questions do not really add up. But to say that the West is raising questions about India, who the hell is the West? Why do we care about what the West says? We can raise as many questions. If I want to be a drain inspector, as far as America and as Europe and other countries are concerned, I can do it as well. I don't want to comment on their internal affairs, even if I find it objectionable, and I find many of their policies objectionable. I don't see why they should do it, and if they do it, I don't see why people like Faizan should have such an inferiority complex. कि गोरे ने बोल दिया, इसलिए अब हम बड़े ढीले पड़ गए. Don't do this, man.
Faizan, okay, fair question. Let Faizan respond to that, because Faizan, at the end of the day, why are we waiting for certificates from the West? You know, at the end of the day, India is a country which takes its own independent foreign policy decisions, and we've shown that in the case of what's happened post Russia and Ukraine's war, where we've taken a different line from the entire Western world. And it's not like that has, deeply impacted our relations either.
Madhav, it is not about like the way Mr. Sareen was pointing out that you're suffering from some inferiority complex. Gore ne bol diya. It is not about Gora or kisne bol diya. It's about, unfortunately, this is the reality, and we are pained as the citizens of this country that in a certain part of our country which is burning, and the Prime Minister is not doing enough. He's not speaking. BJP was trying to hide this issue. It was after that video surfaced. After that video surfaced, after a month of Manipur burning, it was after that the opposition raised its voice. Still the Prime Minister didn't speak. It was when the opposition passed the no confidence motion and we made sure that the Prime Minister comes to the Parliament. It was at that time the Prime Minister eventually opened his mouth. Somebody who's very, very fond of doing Man Ki Baat, unhone Manipur ko apne man se dur kar diya. This is his responsibility. This is his doing, because of which the people of Manipur are suffering. And you see what CM Biren is doing. He was doing some drama of resigning. I remember seeing his video where he was having his
that's all well.
Faizan,
the question is, that's all well. It's perfectly legitimate to raise questions on Manipur. But the point is whether comparison with what's happening in Moscow is legitimate or not. But Shazia, since there are direct questions against the BJP, please respond to that.
So, Faizan, first of all, I'm very, interested in knowing more about your newfound affinity for the West as opposed to Russia. So I think there is a tectonic shift in the policy of Samajwadi Party towards the Western powers, and I wasn't aware of the fact that you were so worried about the sanctions West has, and because Russia is the most sanctioned place as a country as of now. So good to know that there is actually a sea change in the way you thought about the West. So I'm happy to know the Samajwadi is thinking on those lines. We're getting out of this whole binary, crisis that we always find ourselves in. And look at us, whether it's Chabar, India-Iran pact for 10 years, in the height of the Israel-Gaza imbroglio, we did that. In the height of the escalation and the war between Russia and Ukraine, we held our own and we said we will look at our own interest and will buy crude oil at the best deal possible to us, which has actually helped India in a huge way. Yes, there is a huge trade deficit, and there is an economic rationale to that, which is exactly what is being discussed, something that Nirmala Sitharaman has been pointing out and others too, and which is why the Export Promotion Council and all are identifying things without any fear of sanctions to go ahead and increase the export. There is also a refixing of the ruble-rupee mechanism, and that is also being considered. So there are many complex issues, but I'm very happy to know that Samajwadi Party feels that we should fear the West to the degree that we are not doing enough, and that we should really cut down our talks with Russia. No, I heard you. So I think it's very, I'm rather impressed.
I didn't say we should fear them.
You can respond to her. Faizan will get your turn. Please let her complete her point. Yeah, Shazia, please conclude.
We have to act in a national interest.
Faizan, please. Okay. Faizan, please don't interrupt. Nobody interrupted you. Let her make a point, please. Yeah.
No, I want to Faizan, there are 3 points that Jairam Ramesh raised. One is on the trade deficit, and I just answered that, and the economic rationale behind it. The second question was 16 meetings as opposed to 11, which of course Sushant Ji has clearly spelled out and said, well, there were many factors, and these black swan events that happened, whether it's COVID or the Russia-Ukraine war. And the third question that you asked, and it made literally fun of Jairam Ramesh used the word Agniveer. So will Indians be fighting in Russia as Agniveers because we can't do much here? I thought that was it was really in bad taste and unbecoming, and sleaze of Jairam Ramesh, because the fact of the matter is that Jaishankar Ji has...
All right, one by one. Faizan first. Faizan first, since he's directly addressed Faizan and raised questions, because Faizan, these are concerns, or the concerns over the West is not what Samajwadi Party is normally known for, is what Shazia says. So it's heartening to see your concern, says the BJP spokesperson. Please respond to her.
Madhav, first of all, what Shazia is saying, she's twisting my words. I never said we should fear anybody. Of course not. We don't need to fear anybody. But yes, we should gauge from where we are benefiting. We should look for our benefits more. If we are not benefiting much from Russia, why should we invest more with them and jeopardize our relationship with the Western world, from whom we could benefit more? So, what suits us? What suits us? That's exactly what I'm saying, Shazia and me.
You're getting caught. A little knowledge is a very dangerous thing. Faizan,
right, really?
A little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Right. I understand. That's why I request you not to speak.
Yes, if you
don't expose yourself.
Okay, no personal comments. No personal comments, please.
Yourself.
No personal comments. One by one. Faizan, conclude your point very quickly. Why do you say it's a dangerous thing, and what exactly are you trying to highlight over here? Because as has been highlighted in the past, we've got oil cheap, we're exporting it to the West. How have things gone wrong? And Russia is one of our biggest defense hardware suppliers. Faizan, once again, Faizan first.
India could face diplomatic isolation from the Western countries or anti-Russia countries.
Where has that happened?
I am saying it can happen because we are.
How, if it's not happened for the last 2 years, why will it happen now, Faizan?
Let me just conclude, Madhav. Let me conclude.
Okay, one second. Shazia, let him make his point. Shazia, let him make his point, please. I have asked him a question. Let him respond, please. Shazia, please.
There could be economic sanctions and there could be trade restrictions if, unfortunately, something like this happens. Is this a suitable situation that we would be in? Are we benefiting enough from Russia right now? As I pointed out, there's a trade deficit. Shazia ji, I didn't interject while you were speaking, madam. Madam, you can complete.
Okay. Let me come in. You made your point of Faizan. Let's get in a response. We could face sanctions. We could face action from different countries. Rajat is all smiles. I think Rajat would like to take that question. Yes, Rajat?
What a perverse understanding of international relations this is. I mean, where do I even start off? See, again, leave this to professionals. Let people who are on the periphery, who have very little understanding, let's leave it. We have very good, apparatus, foreign ministry apparatus, which, looks at various dimensions of it. And we have a very able foreign minister as well. Let's leave it to the professionals.
All right.
Prime Minister Modi is definitely walking a tightrope, and let him do that. Let him focus on a very important relationship that he needs to present to the world in a different way, and perhaps also broker a peace. There is no other leader across the world who has, been re-elected for the third time. We've seen this, Macron and others. Everybody has been struggling with repeat mandates. Here is one leader who has a legitimacy of 1.5 billion people. If among all people who can actually address and bring in and act as a peace broker, it is him. So he is there on a mission of humanity. Let him do that work, and let's not.
He's on a mission of humanity. The gentleman doesn't care.
Lokesh, okay. Lokesh wants to come in. Lokesh, would you like to respond to what Rajat says? The Prime Minister has a goodwill. Let him use it at such international fora such as these. What's the issue with that?
Well, Madhav, I just want to make a certain point correct. Mr. Sareen said that whatever we are importing from Russia is being exported. No, sir. The trade deficit with Russia has increased from $40 billion to $65 billion, and that oil is being used to contain the inflation in India. If you talk about the exports, we have been witnessing a decline in the exports. Services sector exports are also declining. The reason why we are having a weaker rupee is because RBI wants to make sure somehow the exports are being promoted. That's why the RBI is busy raking up the foreign reserves, and it is not that we are buying Russian oil and we are exporting it to the Western countries.
Okay. Sushant Sareen, brand new class in economics this evening, but yes, would you like to respond to that?
No, Madhav, I can't respond to this level of ignorance which Jindal is talking about. It's crazy because it doesn't make any sense. The bottom line is this. Please check the data. What are India's oil exports? India is one of the largest exporters. Oil is one of the largest export items from India. It's mostly processed oil. Please check the data. Don't take my word for it. Obviously, some of our oil imports which we are importing have been diverted from the traditional suppliers to Russia. That's a no-brainer. If you're getting a better deal from Russia, we will import from Russia. Yes. So at one level, the trade deficit which we are running with Russia, some of it is balanced with the re-export of processed oil into other markets. But that trade deficit is certainly grown with Russia, and there is what Shazia was talking about, there is a payments problem. Because ultimately we have to pay Russia, and we can't pay them in hard currency, which we might be earning from other places. And that amount has mounted up. Some of it has been paid in some other currencies, in dirhams and others. But we need to figure out a system. That is a payment mechanism system that needs to be worked out. And until you work that out,
all right,
because of the other sanctions on Russia, many of the private sector players who would otherwise export to Russia and balance some of this trade deficit are not wanting to do it because they also have markets in the West and they don't want to fall foul of those markets. So if you have a payment mechanism, which works independently of the Western sanctions. That is what you are trying to evolve. One final point, Madhav.
Yeah, quickly, please. Out of time.
Mentioned the fact that we have invested in Chabahar Port. So we have maintained a relationship with Iran, even when Iran has a big problem with another very close ally of ours, Israel, and it is under certain sanctions from the West. At the same time, please remember we are also entering into a trade corridor arrangement with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, possibly Israel, and then Europe.
Yes, and that's ultimately what diplomacy is about balancing different concerns about countries that may not see eye to eye together, and that's really the big challenge that really is exemplified perhaps by this visit. I'd like to thank you, Sushant Sareen, Rajat Sethi, Lokesh Jindal, Faizan Kidwai, Chandrasekhar Jha, as well as Shazi Almi for joining us on that debate.